Oh, hi. So, you must be wondering what I'm doing out here. Well, see, there's this hit game called Undertale, right? And it starts with this kid falling into the ocean, and it leads to him meeting all these strange monsters underground, right? See, that's why I'm out here today. We're gonna go find this underground, and we're going to record a video meeting all these monsters. That game took place on a mountain, didn't it? Look, I don't know how to start this video, okay? We're talking about Undertale, arguably the most influential and successful indie game ever made. A game that dominated the internet in the mid to late 2010s and continues to be at an unmatched level of popularity and acclaim. A game so popular that the late Pope Francis owned a copy of it, gifted to him by famous Congress politician Matthew Patrick, known for his remarkable works such as The Best Boobs in Video Games, and FNAF was inspired by a real-life mass shooting that happened in 1993.
In the game, there were 5 child victims. In the real-life story, there were also 5 victims. Yes, there were 5 people shot that night in Chuck E. Cheese, which matches the 5 victims in Freddy's story. Is a tragic story, a disgusting waste of human life, and one that I won't joke about or make fun of in any way, but I want to address it because I have a strong suspicion that this story is the one that inspired Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yes, MatPat, I'm sure that the lone survivor of that shooting appreciates being compared to Golden Freddy. Point is, Undertale needs no introduction, and with its 10th anniversary coming up, I want to talk about the impact that this game had. Undertale is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. It's a game that explores heavy themes of forgiveness and compassion, and it does so in one of the most creative and unique ways at the time. The game left an astonishing impact on millions of people, myself included, and today, I'm not going to talk about Undertale and the impact it left on the internet and gaming culture. I'm going to talk about Undertale and the impact it left on me. And when I'm talking about impact, I don't mean it lightly. Undertale saved my life.
We got trouble.
So let me make something clear. This video is going to be very heavy. I'm going to be very open and very honest with you. I'm going to talk about my history of living with depression and my past history with wanting to and trying to end my own life, and how Undertale has more than once taught me something new. Something that I would continue to carry with me throughout my life. I'm going to talk about these themes and what they mean to me, and how this game helped me through a very dark period of my life. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Even though I will joke around during this video, there's going to be a lot of heavy subject matter and discussions relating to it. If that's not for you, I understand. There's no shame in leaving and waiting for my next video. I promise the next video will be on a happier topic, alright? We'll talk about which Sonic characters are Republican or Democrat next time. And spoiler alert, Shadow can't vote. He's a convicted felon. So, to the 5 people watching this video who don't know what Undertale is, what are you doing here? The story of Undertale goes like this. 2 races ruled over the earth, monsters and humans. A war broke out between the two, which led to monsters being banished underground. Fast forward to current day, and a gender-ambiguous kid climbs a mountain and falls into the hole. When this fall is broken by a bed of flowers, they arrive and set underground. Here, they encounter many different monsters, all with a wide variety of personalities. There's a goat mom, an autistic skeleton, a gay lizard, and a gay fish, and a drag queen robot, and many more. If there's one thing that carries the flow of Undertale, it's the characters. Even the smallest side character is given a unique personality from everyone else. This isn't just an attention to detail thing, it's done on purpose. It helps hammer home the message of the game and how people, no matter who they are just as valuable as any other life. They all have their own goals, their own wants, their own passions, their own relationships, and likes and dislikes. Undertale goes out of its way to do the opposite of most RPGs and humanize the monster NPCs. Or monsterize. Monshumanize. They're good people is what I'm trying to say. Undertale makes a great effort to have you connect and relate to the characters, more so than any other RPG for that matter. And the reason for this is that Undertale takes the traditional formula of standard RPGs and flips it on its head. See, normally in any other RPG, you would try to gain experience points and level up in order to become stronger, and the best way to do so is by grinding enemies. But in Undertale, the game punishes you for doing just that. When you grind enemies for too long, you'll run out of enemies to fight. And all of a sudden, the music becomes eerie and the world becomes empty. The monsters are running from you, and they are warning the others of your actions. Every single boss fight in Undertale, with the exception of 2, are all one-hit kills. Shopkeepers leave out signs pleading with you to not hurt their family. These are more than just monster NPCs. They are real in the sense that they have emotions and consciences on the same level as main characters or even the player themselves. Normally, monster enemies in RPGs are just worthless creatures with not a single thought behind their eyes except kill the player.
I'm killing you. I'm killing you. I don't care about anything else. I don't give a shit about anything else. My programming is just get that fucking guy right now. It doesn't, there is no like, oh, he's running? I'll back off a little. Nope, it's just until I get you.
But in Undertale, the enemies all have their own gimmick and personality attached to them. It forces you to acknowledge the enemies as being more than just another factor into your XP gain. And if you were to play the game like any other traditional RPG, you end up destroying the lives of so many people who are simply just trying to live their lives after being banished to the underground. But there is more than just one way to play Undertale. If you were to win battles by acting and befriending the monsters, you would go down the path towards the true ending, in which you are able to free the monsters from the underground and give them the chance at a new life. This is just an abridged explanation of the game and its mechanics. There is a lot more I want to talk about in terms of the characters and the themes, which I will discuss soon. But I hope it gives a pretty clear picture for why so many people were seen by this game. For me though, I first found out about this game when I was just starting middle school, which as we all know, is the most common age range to become obsessed with Undertale. I was absolutely one of those annoying fans that commentary channels made videos on in 2016. Over time, when I got older, I started to appreciate the game a lot more, and it started to grow more and more relevant to my life. I didn't have a very good school life. I was a violent kid in elementary, an outcast in middle, and a victim in high school. I had friends, and I was part of different groups, but all of them would eventually shut me out. In fact, there are many instances where I genuinely believed that I deserved all the bad things that happened to me, because my actions at the time reflected it. I associated myself with people who were a bad influence on me because I was so desperate for friendship and attention. Eventually, all of it, including my depression, was too much for me to handle. It felt like there wasn't anybody in my corner to cheer me on anymore. All the friends I once had turned on me, and the new friends I found only made me feel more miserable. And in 2018, I attempted to take my own life. So why am I telling you all of this? Because after my attempt failed and I spent the time recovering, I still had a lot more dark periods in my life, and especially recently. But something else I did during one of those recent dark periods was that I replayed Undertale. It was the first time I had picked up the game since 2016. I played through all of it. I did the pacifist route again, and I did the genocide route again. And being 18 playing the game compared to when I was 11 playing it was a lot more of an eye-opening experience for me. A lot more had happened in my life, both good and bad. And one of the things in the game that stuck with me the most was the True Lab. Understanding the True Lab and the character development of Alphys was really emotional for me. Alphys served as the royal scientist for King Asgore, and their ultimate goal was to find a way to shatter the barrier and escape the underground. But in order to do so, it would require a human soul and a monster soul. Problem is, though, is that human souls are able to persist after death. Meanwhile, monster souls turn into dust. Alphys experimented with the corpses of fallen monsters in an attempt to preserve their soul. She would work with these corpses and inject them with determination. However, these experiments would fail, and as a result, the fallen monsters would turn into amalgamites, and some even fusing with others. Alphys would try everything she could to fix things, but the pressure from the monsters' families got too much for her, and so she kept the amalgamites locked in the True Lab. Something that stuck with me a lot with the True Lab is how the amalgamites are all related to previous monsters that you have encountered. There's an early enemy in the game named Snowdrake. His personality is focused around him wanting to be an entertainer and a comedian, and the way you beat him in the true pacifist route is by laughing at his jokes. Snowdrake has a father who is implied to be unsupportive of him, and a mother who is missing. I'm the result comedian. I'm very funny. People laugh at my jokes. Now, my son, he wants to be a comedian like his father, but his jokes aren't funny. He tells these awful puns. He's an embarrassment to our family. That's not funny. Since his mother passed on, he couldn't stand living at home anymore, so he ran away. I haven't seen him since. I'm a terrible father. That's not funny. When you enter the True Lab, one of the amalgamites you face is Snowdrake's mother. Her body is falling apart and one side of her is melting. It's as if the determination she was injected with is just barely holding her together. The flavor texts that accompany this battle with her are also chilling. No pun intended. Seems like it's losing itself. It's so cold. The music is a distorted version of another song in the game called Snowy. It's constantly changing pitch and speed, making everything feel more and more uncomfortable and sad. One of her few lines of dialogue is her trying to say, Snowy. Snowy is the nickname of her son, Snowdrake, so it's very possible she was trying to call out to her son. Seeing this entire fight in my recent playthrough was genuinely heartbreaking for me. When you understand the context and the amount of depth that was put in just one of the monster families in the game, it goes to show just how well the game does at making you feel sympathy for characters that you would otherwise just write off as basic RPG enemies. In Undertale, they are so much more than that, and it makes doing the genocide route that much harder considering the amount of knowledge behind each monster and their background. I think what made me emotional in regards to the True Lab and specifically Snowdrake's mother is that it put me in the perspective of what it would feel like to go missing entirely from your family. For all of them to believe that you are dead while in reality living in constant suffering. Cut away from the rest of the world. Thinking about how people in my life would react to me suddenly disappearing, or in this case, me taking my own life. How my parents would react, how my friends would react, hell, even how my followers would react in some way. Just thinking about what life would turn out for everyone around me had I succeeded back in 2018, I think the scenes in True Lab opened my eyes a lot to just how much family and relationships could crumble if just one person in it died, especially in such a tragic way. Part of what made True Lab so interesting to me was the role that Alphys played in it. It's obvious that the amount of pressure was too much for her, and she feels a great amount of guilt for what she did. But part of the themes for Undertale is learning to forgive yourself rather than seek forgiveness from others. The underground and the monsters that occupy it are able to reconnect with their loved ones again, even if they are now amalgamites, and while it takes getting used to, they're still satisfied with the reunion. Even if Alphys can earn forgiveness from her friends, she still struggles with trying to forgive herself, and that's something that I myself struggled with when it came to my past mistakes. And I feel like I can relate a lot to Alphys in that aspect. I also want to say that Alphys is probably the most misunderstood and overhated character in the entire game. Now, the True Lab and the Snowdrake family wasn't the only thing that stood out to me on my second playthrough. I also want to talk about the ending of the game, and specifically, the character of Asriel Dreamer. Asriel's backstory and the boss fight attached to them is genuinely one of the best experiences I had with an indie game. When you first start the fight, the only knowledge you have of Asriel is that he is the son of both Toriel and Asgore. And you also learn about the relationship between Asriel and the true human, Kara, back in the True Lab. I know a lot of people pronounce their name differently. Kara just sounds right to me, so deal with it. Kara was the first human who fell down into the underground. They were picked up and adopted by Asgore and Toriel, but Kara eventually fell ill and made a wish to see the golden flowers at their village back on the surface. But again, in order to do that, Asriel would have to absorb the human soul and cross the barrier. But when he did make it to the village, the humans believed that Asriel killed Kara, and so they attacked him. And despite having the ability to wipe them all out if he could in his god form, Asriel did not. Asriel let himself be killed by the humans rather than harm them himself. And so when he fled the village and returned to the underground, he succumbed to his injuries and was turned to dust over the garden and new home. Back in True Lab, Alphys experimented with injecting determination in one of the garden's golden flowers, the same garden that was covered with the dust of Asriel. The first flower that blossomed ended up being Flowey, the main antagonist of Undertale. So long story short, Flowey uses the 6 human souls along with monster souls to transform into Asriel's god form. During the boss fight with Asriel, you have to save the lost souls of all your allies that you grew in the game. In order to do so, you have to act in a way that would make them remember you. One of the parts in this section that really got to me was when you hug Toriel's lost soul. The flavor text that shows says, you hug the lost soul and tell her that you're going to see her again. So, reading this in my second playthrough made me cry, and I really can't say why because it's too personal even for this video. All I will say is that doing this section made me think a lot about my family and loved ones in my life, and how much I matter to them, even when I don't realize it. After you save all the lost souls, you now have to save Asriel, who refuses to be saved, saying how scared he is and how much he misses everyone. When the fight is over, Asriel uses the power of the souls to shatter the barrier. Afterwards, he tells the main character, Frisk, that he will soon revert back to a flower and feel no love or compassion again. Asriel's backstory and character arc stuck with me a lot. It's very clear that he meant a lot to the people underground. His death left such a negative impact on everyone, so much so that the king ordered for any human to fall down again to be killed. But over the course of the game, Frisk shows nothing but compassion for every monster they meet, and helps change the narrative. The world and characters in this game are special to me and to so many other people. And while there are other games that I have played that affected me more like Amori, Undertale was a game that I experienced in a very important time of my life. A time where I felt like I had nobody in my life who truly cared for me. A time where I felt like being alive and waiting for it to get better wasn't worth it. And I wanted it all to end. I've had this feeling so many times, but this game gave me so many new perspectives and so many reasons for me to understand why life is so beautiful. Yes, it's just a video game, but that doesn't mean it can't be real. It's more than a video game to me. It's an experience that shaped me in who I am creatively and emotionally. It taught me compassion and forgiveness for not just others, but for myself. And I can tell that this game had that same impact on so many other people as well. All I can really say at this point is that despite everything, it's still me. If you're expecting me to talk about how awesome high school was, you're going to be disappointed. For years, people have told me that my high school years were going to be the best years for me as a student. People told me that I was going to have more freedom, more friends, and more opportunities. What I instead got was 4 years of depression, anxiety, loneliness, abuse, bullying, and bigotry. I've never felt like I wasn't alone my entire time at school. I was hoping things would get easier for me as time went on. What happened instead was I trusted the wrong people who would use me for their own selfish purposes, just so that they can feel better about themselves. And once they were done with me, they would make it seem like it was my fault. And for a while, I believed those people. I believed that I was the problem and that the world would be better off without me. There was a time after I came out as bisexual where I would experiment with different clothing and cross-dress. I was the only cisgender boy at my school who wore a skirt, and because of that, I became an easy target for bullies. These kids would laugh at me and mock me, while other kids would do the same and call me a f***. The entire time, I was too scared to report their actions because I was fearful over my own safety. I didn't want to be a person who just let themselves get bullied. I would join an LGBTQ group at my school and try to help out other peers who were going through the same issues as me. We would work hard to create posters for the club and hang them up across the school, hoping that more kids would join our club. What instead happened was that the same bullies who harassed me would tear up posters and write homophobic slurs on them. I tried to tell them to stop, but instead they beat me up. Even after all of this, I never got support from my school. They did nothing to stop situations like these from happening, and I had to finish my junior year from home while being too scared to leave my own house. I have a lot of regrets when it comes to my time in school. One of those regrets is expecting people would treat me like a normal person. Instead, I was bullied, ridiculed, beaten up, abused, and lied to. After all of that, I'm expected to say that I learned something from my time in high school. The only thing I learned was that if something sounds too good to be true, it probably isn't. Staff from my old school didn't help me when homophobic kids beat me up and threw food at me. Instead, they tried to gaslight me into thinking it was my fault. After 12 years of this, I'm ready to move on, and I'm not looking back. I want to end this video by addressing those watching who feel similar to how I did. Even when it feels like nobody is left on your side or nobody cares about you, there is always someone who loves you and cares about you and wants you around. Your life has more meaning than you may think, and any of those negative feelings you have are not permanent. The fact is, your life is precious and important to not just yourself, but so many others. And any feelings you have that say otherwise are not true. Stay true to yourself. If I can get out of that void and come out the other side feeling better, then you can as well. There are resources out there and people who are always there to listen to you. Please, take advantage of them if you need it. And with that, I've been Limus, and I'll keep you posted from the Slimeverse. Thank you to my patrons, including Pandacade, Ellender, and Gabe Neal. Thank you all so much for your support.
It's Santa, see that